Alright, so let's take a look at degrees, minutes, seconds, and a decimal in degrees. So what am I talking about? Well, the reason why we would use degrees, minutes, seconds to write an angle measure would be because it has a lot of different applications. Your text says that an application such as describing the exact location of a star or the precise position of a ship at sea would be examples of where degrees, minutes, and seconds would be used. Okay? So before we can actually get into converting between the two, we need to understand the actual terminology. A lot of calculators have, and you may or may not have ever noticed, they have a DMS button, and that is degrees, minutes, seconds. So you may see something like this. D, the capital letter D with an angle measure, a degree symbol, a capital M with one tick mark, and a capital S with two tick marks. Okay, and we use the degree symbol for degrees. We use one tick mark to denote a minute, and we use two tick marks like that to denote a second. 1 second which we write as the number 1 with one tick mark. Two tick marks. If you were just to think about that, not even in what we're going over here in math, using our language, 1 second really doesn't mean a whole lot, like other than the time 1 second, and it is related to the way that we use it in the real world. How many seconds do you think it would take to equal 1 minute mathematically? 60, just from the way that we use it with time. Okay, so I'm going to come back to this 1 second in just a second. No pun intended. 60 seconds, just from the way that we use it in the real world, would be equal to 1 minute. Okay, and that's true here in math sense, what we're doing here. 60 seconds equals 1 minute. So if we know that, then 1 second would be equal to how many minutes? It'd have to be a fraction, wouldn't it? It'd be 1/60th of a minute. We're going to have to use these conversions whenever we're converting over from degrees, minutes, seconds to a decimal in degrees, or decimal in degrees to degrees, minutes, seconds. Alright. Now, 1 degree is equal to, well, kind of, you can't really relate this, I guess, to the real world as far as minutes and seconds, because the word degree doesn't really go with minutes and seconds. So I'll tell you. 1 degree, or we write that as the number 1 with a degree symbol, is equal to 60 minutes. So 1 minute would then be equal to how many degrees? 1/60th of a degree. Okay, now here is I don't think that your book writes this conversion down. They do, but they don't really tell you. How many seconds, or I'm sorry, 1 second then would have to be equal to how many degrees? Or 1 over 3,600 of a degree. So what is that? That's because, yeah, 60 times 60. So it's 1/60th times 1/60th. So when we're going from degrees, minutes, seconds to a decimal in degrees, then we're going to need to use the fact that 1 second is 1/3600th of a degree. 1 minute is 1/60th of a degree. Okay? And I will show you how to do that. Now, let's say that we wanted to convert 50 degrees, 6 minutes, 21 seconds to a decimal in degrees. Alright, this is actually, even if the conversions confused you a little bit, this is not bad at all. I promise you. Alright, so the decimal in degrees. Well, the whole number part of our decimal in degrees is already given, the 50 degrees. So that's the first part. 50 degrees plus, now we want to convert 6 minutes over 2 degrees. So we'll just say 6 is 6 minutes times 1/60th of a degree. Okay, and that is going to be 6 over 60, which is 1/10 or 0.1. Okay, and I'll write that down in the next step. So plus the next part is converting seconds over 2 degrees. So that's going to be 21 seconds times 1 degree, which is, I'm sorry, one second, which is 1/3600th of a degree. Right. Now, you're probably going to want to use a calculator to get what these are as decimals. And then what we'll carry them out maybe 4 or 5 places. And then at the end, I'll show you what you have to do. Maybe we want to round if it doesn't come up to a whole number. All right, I'm going to just pull up the calculator here in Windows real quick. And by the way, this is something that, when you're working your homework, you should have some type of calculator. The calculator in Windows is really easy to get to. You just, push the Windows button, type in calculator, and there it is. And it has, whether you know it or not, it has different modes. Like there's a statistics mode, a standard mode. This is scientific mode. And you see it has degrees, radians, gradients, lots of good functionality here. Alright, so I'm just going to use it to find, multiply these numbers times the fractions and see what they are as decimals. Because I'm trying to get this in a decimal in degrees. Alright, so 6 divided by 60, or just 1 divided by 10 is 0.1. Okay, we all know that, so I'll write that down in just a second. Let's see what this decimal is, because I'm going to have to write that down as a decimal. So it's going to be 21 divided by 3600. So that's 0.0058 and then 3 repeating. Now, unless we're told what to round to, if you weren't told what to round to, then maybe you would just stop at the 3 and put a repeating bar. But let's say we want to round to 4 decimal places. All right, just to round to something. So this is going to be 50 degrees plus 0.1 plus, what was that, 0.0058, 3 repeating. Now, put those together, and now all these are degrees. All these parts are degrees. So this is 50.1. If I added these, that would be 0.1058, 3 repeating. And if I rounded to 4 digits, 4 decimal places, then that would be 50.1058 degrees. All right, that's my answer. That's my decimal in degrees. Well, what if we have a decimal in degrees and we want to convert that over to degrees, minutes, seconds? For example, let's say that I had 21.256 degrees, and I want to convert this to degrees, minutes, seconds. I bet everyone in here could figure out what the degree part is, right? Use the knowledge that we got from converting the other way. 21. So the first part is 21. It's 21 degrees. Now I'm just going to put plus, and we're going to figure out the other parts as we go. Now the way that we convert to minutes, you take the entire decimal part, the 0.256, and multiply that times 60 minutes. So 0.256 times 60 minutes. That's going to give us how many minutes we have in that decimal part. Now, that is going to have a decimal here. That's, what is it? 15.36. And that's 15.36 minutes. Now, we just take the whole number part of that for our minutes. And then we're going to take this decimal part, the 0.36, and we're going to convert that over to seconds. So this is 21 degrees plus 15 minutes plus, we're going to take this decimal part that is minutes, and we're going to convert it over to seconds. The way we do that is multiply that times 60 seconds. That's going to give us how many seconds we have in the 0.36 part. So this is 21 degrees plus 15 minutes plus 21.6 seconds. Now, we want a whole number. Alright, so you need to round that to the nearest second. So that's 21 degrees, 15 minutes, 22 seconds. I dropped all the plus signs and I wrote it in the format that it needs to be in.